The second newly born baby was lying on a diaper and screaming loudly, assertively, angrily. The exhausted woman in labor turned her back to the wall in horror, tears welling up in her eyes. Amelia Eckhardt was following while the doctor's orders, expecting her second child, but she had no idea that she was pregnant with twins and would soon become a mother of 3. John, her husband, worked as a ship's carpenter. The family had an 8-year-old daughter, Caroline, growing up. It happened during a thunderstorm on the stormy night of August 27, 1911. The room was dark, only a gas burner and flashes of lightning dimly illuminated the room. In the American city of Baltimore, in her home, in a bedroom on the second floor, 35-year-old Mrs. Eckhardt gave birth to a healthy baby boy for whom she and her husband chose a name in advance. It was decided to name the child Robert. The midwife demonstrated the baby. Look how big he is. 6 pounds. After the birth of the first child, the labor resumed, and after some time, the second baby was born. The midwife who delivered the baby crossed herself at the sight of the second child. As long as I've worked, I've never seen anything like this. It's not a baby. Oh my God, it's a broken doll. You're on the Frozen History Channel, and let's glue the pieces of this interesting story together. Amelia's heart ached with pity mixed with horror. The second boy looked like half a baby. He had a normal head, torso, and arms, but his legs were underdeveloped. The rare pathology is called sacral agenesis or sacral agenesis. The boy weighed only 900 grams and his height was 20 centimeters. The parents agreed and prepared for the worst. The nameless infant proved to be remarkably resilient. He greedily suckled on the breast, ate with great appetite, and clearly was not going to die. Soon the boys were baptized, and the vocal boy with no legs was named John. The father and mother made no distinction between the children, but it was John who had all their worries. While 1-year-old Robert was crawling and learning to walk on his feet, John was ahead of him, deftly learning to move on his hands. Johnny grew up physically healthy and bright. The most surprising thing was that the brothers' faces were alike, but their bodies were different. Nevertheless, the children treated each other with great love and got along well, to the great credit of their parents. Robert cared for his brother and did not let him offend. The Eckhardt's eldest daughter, Caroline, enjoyed babysitting and teaching her brothers. By the age of 4, they were both reading and writing competently. Robert and John went to school together. Classmates fell in love with the boy without feet for his cheerful disposition, sparkling jokes, and even competed in who will belong to the right to bring John to class on the steps of a long staircase. The school authorities ordered to hang thick curtains on the windows of the classroom where the brothers were studying, so that gawkers would not pry where they should not. Johnny learned to type and edited the school newspaper. Amelia dreamed that her son would one day become a court stenographer. Robert tried to shield his brother from mockery and hurtful jokes, but it was not always successful. More often than not, his brother was called a freak or a stump. It was not easy for the boy to socialize in society, but he had an adoring brother and a loving family. The boys were passionate about making toys, wood carving, drawing, and even made up and sewed clothes for John. He soon got used to being viewed as a curiosity. The spectacled people would ask John, "Would you like to have legs?" The boy joked back, "I don't need them. My position has the advantage that my shoes never get too tight, and I don't have to iron my pants." One day, John and Robert went to see a circus show. The illusionist John McCaslin asked a man from the audience to come on stage for the purity of the experiment. John volunteered to be the volunteer. He, deftly moving on his hands, approached the dumbfounded magician. He could not believe his eyes. Can this really happen? After the show, he offered John a contract. Parents immediately agreed to it on the condition that Robert will look after his brother. At the age of 12, John began his career as an entertainer. John positioned himself as a man with no lower half of his torso, although he actually had legs but in a rudimentary state, which he disguised under custom-made clothes. The playbills called him the amazing half-boy and the king of freaks. His performance consisted of magic tricks, juggling, tightrope walking on his hands, nimble acrobatic, and power tricks, including the famous one-handed handstand. Great delight of the audience caused the number with an elephant, in which Johnny rolled down the trunk, as if from a slide. In the company of circus performers, the boy was cozy. John said, "I have met hundreds of thousands of people, but no one better than midgets, Siamese twins, a man caterpillar, a bearded woman, and a man seal I had not seen. I'd never asked them any unnecessary questions, and they tactfully didn't ask me how I was doing in life. When he reached adulthood, John was only about 50 centimeters tall, although the upper half of his torso was developing normally. When Johnny turned 20, he was approached by a talent manager from the MGM movie studio, offering him a role in a horror movie about a traveling French circus directed by Todd Browning, Freaks. The producers gave him the name Johnny Eck. On the set, John felt among the noisy and childish acting fraternity a little uncomfortable. In the movie as a circus gymnast, starred in the movie as a beautiful Olga Baklanova, an actress of Russian descent, famous for her role in the silent movie The Man Who Laughs. John then, for the first time, felt a romantic crush. He realized to achieve mutual sympathy, Olga, he will not succeed. And yet Johnny made a timid attempt. Eckhardt at the end of filming handed Baklanova a small handmade gift, a model of the circus. Olga kept the gift and remembered Johnny with great love and tenderness, calling him handsome. Then Eckhardt starred in several movies about Tarzan. Johnny's earnings came in handy and allowed the Hart family to buy a house mortgage during the Great Depression. John was an amazing and versatile man. Together with his brother, they formed an orchestra of 12 musicians. Robert played the piano and Johnny conducted and played the saxophone. Ruthless fate deprived him of a chance for a full life, but John was stronger than circumstances and mastered many professions. As it often happens, the surrounding society saw in him not so much an example of fortitude, but an object for ridicule and mockery. The little man did not despair and was not ashamed of his appearance. He had proved with his whole life that he alone was the master of his destiny and had achieved much more than most of those born with legs. The absence of legs did not prevent Johnny from doing what he dreamed of. I guess that's called a miracle. In 1938, Johnny climbed in his arms to the Washington Monument, the tallest obelisk at nearly 170 meters high. A circus and movie actor, a musician, an artist who painted beautiful girls in the sea, a fine swimmer, a gymnast, a photographer, a magician, and even a car racer. Johnny became the owner of a customized Johnny X special race car. Together with his brother Robert, they often put on free shows for neighborhood children. In their adulthood, the brothers bought a used kiddie train and ran amusement park rides. John Eckhardt lived his entire life in his parents' home on North Milton Avenue in a working-class neighborhood in Baltimore. The doors of the house were always cordially open to guests, although there were not infrequent occasions when the doorbell rang only to look at the half-man out of curiosity. The neighbors treated John warmly. Marn Shaw, who lived nearby, recalled, "We knew John as an artist. He created colorful cards for every holiday, which he signed in calligraphic handwriting and made screens." Toward the end of John's life, tragedy struck. The 76-year-old brother's home was broken into by burglars. While one searched for money and valuables, the other abused the brothers for several hours by writing John. These humiliations broke the spirit and undermined Mr. Eckhardt's faith in humanity. Johnny had been cheated all his life by unscrupulous managers who profited from his performances, but he treated it philosophically. After the robbery incident, he sadly said, "It turns out, the real ugly ones were outside the house." Toward the end of his life, Mr. Eckhardt led a reclusive life. In early January 1991, 79-year-old John suffered a heart attack in his sleep. He died quietly in his own bed at his parents' home. Robert outlived his brother by 4 years. Friends, thank you for watching. Support the channel by subscribing, liking, or commenting. And see you in new exciting videos.